We do have a ton to get through in this episode.
Common sense is finally prevailing.
There was controversy this month, Dave.
I'm not particularly excited by that.
Secrets and things on set.
I haven't told them anything.
I think this is just good times all round.
Every Doctor Who is liked by somebody, and that's a really good thing.
Davo, my doctor.
I know we disagree on this one.
First world problems, Dave.
I get why fans are asking those questions.
Oh gosh, that's actually quite a lot to talk about.
It doesn't compute.
It's the elephant in the room.
That's okay.
Fandom versus the BBC.
The cardinal sin.
Moving along.
Lunch. Hello, I'm Dave.
And I'm Rob.
And welcome to the Doctor Who Show, our final monthly episode for 2025. Rob, how are you?
Dave, I'm very well. Delighted we made it.
We absolutely have. We've got through another year. We are recording on Gauta Prime Day, which is the anniversary of the final episode of Blake 7.
Right. Is that what they call it, the fandom?
That's what they call it, yes.
Right.
And we should say, on a more serious note, we are recording a week and a day after the largest terrorist attack in Australia, which happened to the Jewish community in the city where you are, Rob, in Sydney. And look, we don't want to delve too far into the real world. We are here to have a good time and talk about fantasy and sci-fi and the like, but I think it would be remiss if we didn't just say that that's been a very big event here in Australia, and we extend all our sympathy to everyone affected.
Yeah, and a very beautiful example of people coming together this past week too.
It has been. So look, thought we should acknowledge that, but we are here to talk about Doctor Who. We'll do that. We are going to, in fact, talk about 2 fun episodes, because this is our Christmas ep, Rob. Yes,
the ep of the year where we just cut loose and do something. I mean, we still could have done Children of Earth, Dave. I mean, come on.
We'll get there, Rob. We'll get there. That's. I just don't see that as being a Christmas week's topic.
Sure.
Now, we have both been busy guesting on some other podcasts, Rob. Now, friend of the podcast, Dylan Rees, has been doing his Doctor Who Advent calendar, where every day in December he's had a different guest or guests talk about a different story from the Doctor Who annuals, and we got invited on, Rob.
We did. We talked about a Pat Troughton story from one of the very early annuals, which was a lot of fun just to go and look at a quirky old story.
It has been very interesting to listen to these episodes as they go out, and hearing some of the common themes about the annual stories, and where some are very, very different. I'm still freaked out by the fact that the year of the annual isn't the year it was published. That just blows me away. I can't cope with that. But no, that's been fun. I'm also guesting, as usual, on the 42 to Doomsday Christmas Party episode, which should also be out this week. And Rob, you've been a guest somewhere as well.
I have. I've been on Luke Sims-Jenkins' Marin Chess Club, which is a Fifth Doctor-centric podcast. They talk about Fifth Doctor episodes and books and audios and all of that.
So, of course, they've invited you on.
Yeah, so, of course. I mean, it took them a little while, but, you know, I finally got on, and I talked about some real comfy slippers stuff, which is the Five Doctors Special Edition. No,
that's lovely. I'm very keen to check that out. He does some really good work over there. Very, very Davo obsessive. Maybe a bit too much for me, but, you know, that's okay. Somebody's got to love Davo.
How dare you?
And indeed, just last night I did listen to the 500-year diary episode on the Five Doctors. They're doing a run on Terrance Dicks, which has been really fun to listen to because, look, I think we're all big fans of Terrance Dicks. But before we dive into the news, Rob, just a reminder, because it is the end of the year, please do take a moment to like us on your various podcatchers, subscribe on your various podcatchers, and wherever you are, just leave us a review. We do read out all the Apple Podcast reviews that we get, whether they're good or bad, and look, it does help people find the podcast, so as an end-of-year favour to us, if you can, don't forget to do that, please.
Yeah, if you like the show, do us that favour. We don't have Patreon or anything like that, but we do ask that you leave us a review. That'd be lovely.
That's all we ask, so thank you to everyone who has, and thank you to everybody who does, and indeed, thank you to everybody who's listened to us over 2025. But we will dive into the news now, Rob.
Yes.
As the time we are recording this morning, the final episode of The War Between the Land and the Sea has been aired in the UK. As we discussed last time, it is not airing outside of the UK, so we have been unable to watch it. We've been unable to do hot takes. We've definitely looked at some of the feedback around the place. It seems to have got, I think, overall middle to positive feedback. Certainly when it's compared to the Gatwa era, a lot of people that we follow on social media have said it was better than that, which is a positive thing. The ratings have been slightly better than that. There has, however, been a significant lack of online reviews, podcast hot takes, and discussion clearly because a very large portion of the audience for Doctor Who was not able to watch this, ourselves included. I know Josh Snares, who does a very popular YouTube channel on Doctor Who and does reviews, didn't look at it either.
No, he replied to one of our messages about it and said, yeah, sort of, solidarity with us, he wouldn't be doing it.
We don't know yet when Disney is going to air it in the rest of the world. I will note that Disney has started doing trailers and promotions for the second season of Dodger, a show that we both enjoyed the first season of, Rob, and that's coming out on Disney Plus on the 10th of February. So my instinct is that if there is a similar lead time for The War Between the Land and the Sea, it's going to be later than the 10th of February, potentially some months later, we don't know. However, a YouTube channel that we're both fans of, you put me onto, Rob, did do a good local review.
They did. The Bergenbeard channel on YouTube has looked at the first couple of episodes, and I'm hoping they do more of them, actually.
Yes, I hope that they'll at least do a series wrap-up now the whole thing has dropped, so looking forward to that. But unfortunately, all we can say in the news is that it aired. We didn't get to see it. So much for the global brand.
Yeah, I mean, you say we couldn't see it. We could have if we resorted to the high seas, but we chose not to. We took the high road on this one. I'll just briefly say about the possible air date on Disney. What we know is that the tabloids, those newspapers that some people never seem to believe in, but I won't go down that rabbit hole again, have said 2026 for quite some time. And the BBC has more recently said, it's Disney Plus in early 2026. And I believe that the Disney calendar is out for January and it's not there. Give it another week or two from this episode going out and you'll know if it's in February. So, what you were saying there about Dodger coming out in February, yeah, would they drop this as well? I don't know.
Yeah, we genuinely don't know. But some very exciting news from you, Rob.
Yes, Dave, at long last, the season of Doctor Who that everyone's been anticipating, given it's one of the easier seasons to put content together for, because the Doctor and all his companions are still with us on this mortal coil. Season 21 is coming, and we even got a Pete McTighe short for it, and those have been missing in recent times for the Blu-ray sets. It had Davo and Janet on the docks where they did Resurrection of the Daleks. We get some added Turlo, and it looks like things are going down on Tryon, so the Doctor and Tegan get themselves captured and they're going to go off to Tryon. And a lot of these shorts really trade on, isn't it great to see the old actors again? They don't really fit into their costumes, but isn't it great to see them? Rather than being particularly well written or interesting things in their own right. But I thought this one was okay. It was an interesting premise. Something's going down on Tryon. The Doctor and Tegan are off to Tryon. I mean, you've got to put aside that it's an old Davo now pissing about in the TARDIS with Tegan. Is it some sort of tie into the Tales of the TARDIS thing where all the Doctors were older with their companions? I don't know. But I thought it was pleasant. And, of course, the extras on the disc that are being spruiked looked really good as well, including Davo and Sarah Sutton and Janet. Looked like they're going up a river on a riverboat this time rather than driving across Europe.
Yes, no, look, it does look like a very good box set. You and I are both very big fans of Season 21. It got a couple of mentions, I shall say, on our recent list makers on Top 5 Classic Seasons. So, yeah, lots to look forward to there.
Good stuff.
I've got a little piece that came out of the Radio Times on the 15th of December, which is about Paul McGann commenting on the Christmas 2026 episode. It says, and I quote, Doctor Who legend Paul McGann has shut down speculation he'll make a comeback in the 2026 Christmas special. He said, just recently, in the last week or so, there's me and Billy Piper working together, if only. And so people are like, oh, come on, it has to be true. And the rumour mill kicks in. Host Richard James joked, it could be true. Have you signed an NDA? You just can't tell us, so maybe it's true. McGann then joked, you're making things worse. You're part of the problem. So this is obviously in response to a photograph or alleged photograph that went around fandom very fast quite recently, Rob, which purported to show Paul McGann on the set of the Christmas special with Billy Piper. Most people said it was probably AI, and it seems that it was.
Yeah, it was interesting because little tests that you can do online to tell whether an image is AI came up with it not being AI. But you know what, Dave? Call me irrational, but none of this article screams definitely not to me. It's the kind of thing you were saying if you were trying to keep a 12-month-long secret, because that's how long it's going to be before this thing is out. I've pushed this idea before that Christmas 2026 might be multi-Doctor in the sense that the Doctor, who could be Billy Piper, which I maintain is a bloody awful idea, visits with a few past selves, maybe to discuss the situation of being stuck mid-regeneration or whatever that might be, because I doubt she's an ongoing Doctor, so whatever they do, if it is Billy, it's got to sort of resolve itself within that episode. We've also got Tennant, that 14th Doctor, floating around. I can't believe that before RTD departs, and he may depart after this Christmas special, who knows? I can't believe he wouldn't tie that up in some way. Maybe that Doctor's got to re-merge with Billy to just give it the final push to become the next Doctor. I don't know what nonsense they're going to come up with. But this idea that it's impossible, I think that's all you really could say a year out. So, we're reporting on this news. McGann has said what he said. I still think we've got multi-Doctors coming up, and if it's not McGann, then it's probably Tennant. It's too irresistible to me, Dave.
Look, I'm taking Paul McGann at his word, because why would that man lie to me? But you're right, Rob. Maybe it's some sort of amazing Operation Mincemeat style piece of misinformation to distract us and make us think it's not real. Look, who knows? Well, Paul McGann knows, but we don't believe him. So what more can we say?
Well, this is where Doctor Who fandom has ended up. After so many years of people playing silly buggers, now everyone second guesses everything.
Look, that's absolutely right. And we are now into the era well and truly where we actually cannot believe a photograph or even a video clip on the internet now. It is now a regular thing to see something, have a half-second moment of, oh, that's really cool, and then realise, it's AI. Yeah. And so we now just can't even believe our own eyes, which is very weird, and I don't know how fandom's going to cope with that.
Yeah. We shall see.
Never mind our entire body politic, but that's not our problem right here tonight.
yeah, that's right.
On to our short topics, and I will give us a start. I have decided over this Christmas break to start working through the animated Doctor Who stories that I haven't yet seen. Long-time listeners will know I usually bank a few up and sort of get on a roll and watch them. So I had 3 backed up I hadn't seen. I've now watched 2. The first was the Celestial Toymaker. Now, if I can sort of go back in time a bit, Rob, I can remember first hearing part 4 of the Celestial Toymaker on audio when I borrowed it from the local Doctor Who Club's audio library in about 1988.
Wow.
And being absolutely blown away by this weird, strange, bizarre episode of Doctor Who. I then read the Target novel, and that was equally weird and bizarre. I thought it was great. Later on, I was able to listen to the entire soundtrack, although very poor quality, and even the soundtrack they use on the animated release is not the best quality of these releases. It's not a great audio track we've got for this one. And it was very sort of hard to grasp what this story is like, because it is one of the most visual stories, I think, of the early eras of Doctor Who. It has got a lot of activity, a lot of people doing physical things in weird and strange places. So it's very hard to judge from the audio. So I was quite interested to go in and see if the animated version gave me a better gauge of what this story was like. And I've got to say, the result of what I saw on screen really, really disappointed me. And it disappointed me on 2 levels. First of all, almost nobody looks like they actually should look. Stephen is unrecognisable. The Doctor's barely recognisable. Dodo's not bad. The Toymaker himself, okay. But they've also made the decision to reimagine this story. Now, it is a perennial debate amongst Doctor Who fans. I get both sides of the argument about whether the animation should be as close to reality of what actually was screened as they could, or a reimagining taking us where animation can go. This leans further than any of them into that reimagining direction. There are special effects in there that would never happen, angles that couldn't have been done, characters like the playing cards and the clowns and Miss Wig and Mr. Sergeant Rudge. They are all done as, an animated playing card or as a doll, not as an actor in sort of makeup. So they are not remotely realistic to what was on. So for me, wanting to go in and say, is this going to help me judge what this story was like? The answer is, it doesn't help me one jot. I understand the rationale, but for me, I found that extremely unhelpful and frankly frustrating.
Wow. Okay. I quite liked it when I watched it. I thought the use of 3D in particular, while a bit experimental for the animations, fitted the tone and the feel of the story. Like, this is a weird place, this is a weird animation. I went with it. If they were using it to animate something more mundane, I might have had issues with it.
Look, I absolutely understand the rationale. In another reality, I would potentially get behind it. And I totally agree that if you were making this script today, this is the sort of approach you'd take. I totally understand it, and I'm not condemning them to hell for it. I'm just saying that as an exercise, it didn't give me what I wanted, which is to judge this story in a way that I haven't been able to on the audios.
Interesting. Okay.
The second one that I did watch was, I finally got around to watching the Underwater Menace animation, which of course is only episodes 1 and 4, because you can watch 2 and 3. I was reminded by the recent Gin and TARDIS, where we watched it, had a bit of fun watching the Underwater Menace Part 3 with Richard and Mark and Rob. And so I did go back and watch the whole story. That, I think, is actually a very, very good animation. It's up there. It's one of the best. The characters look like they should. It feels like it should. I think, given the fact that half the story exists, it would have been incredibly jarring had they not had episodes 1 and 4 dovetail neatly into episodes 2 and 3. I think that would have been very jarring. So they've played a much straighter bat to that one, and it actually is very, very good, and it does allow me to watch the Underwater Menace in as close to a realistic whole as has ever been possible. So a big thumbs up for me for that one.
I quite like that one.
Excellent. Good. Still the Savages to watch. I'll report back on that in a month's time.
Yeah, I've got The Savages, Galaxy 4, and it's not animated, but I've also got the colorized and shortened War Games to watch. They're the sort of Doctor Who things floating around for me.
Yeah, I won't be watching the colorized and shortened War Games.
Fair enough.
But I'll be curious to hear your view when you do.
Okay. I'm in no rush to do it, but I will do it at some stage.
Yeah, it will depend on how long the 4th and 5th test lasts, probably.
Indeed.
Some news from you, Rob.
Yeah, all is quiet, Dave, on the Film is Fabulous front. We've been talking about Film is Fabulous for the past few episodes. We still don't have any Doctor Who news per se, but the team has announced they've taken on 3 private film collections which belong to former industry professionals or their estates. These people were apparently 2 former BBC editors and a film projectionist. 2 of these chaps are in very poor health as we speak, which is sad, and a third passed away recently, which is even sadder. That pricked up my ears though, Dave, because we already knew the story of Film is Fabulous almost getting its hands on some Doctor Who. And when the owner of the collection died, it threw a spanner in the works, as it meant they couldn't just go into his home legally anymore. The legalities of everything changed once he passed away. Now, they haven't indicated, but I'm wondering if this collection of a chap who has died is the collection they were chasing recently that they knew some Doctor Who was in. It might not be. It might just be another chap who has died. But it's a tantalising idea that it's that collection.
It definitely feels like things are continuing to move from one stage to the next. We are probably a couple of stages away from an announcement that, hey, we have got this episode and it will be released on X date. I think we're a little way away from there, but it does feel as though things are moving at a sensible, realistic pace.
Yeah. And just to add some more detail to this, the 3 collections they've picked up are in excess of 2,000 films, which all need to be examined, catalogued, and all of that, because as we know, even when a film can might say on the front what's ostensibly inside,
yes,
it might not be. They literally have to get all of these things out and watch them, because, you know, bits of film might be spliced together, things are mislabeled, and all of that. So there's a lot to do before they can really say what they've got. Although they have said they do have some interesting things that they know of in this collection, like some model shots from Red Dwarf that are on 35mm film. You know, it's not earth-shaking stuff, but it's interesting stuff, and they've got their hands on it now. So yeah, interesting things do continue to happen with Film is Fabulous. Do follow them on Facebook, folks, if you haven't. That's my ongoing advice. And we may be closer to some Doctor Who than we think. We'll see.
No, they're doing some really great work there, and it's been fun to watch.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that have been fun to watch, not strictly a Doctor Who short topic, although there are some comparisons to be made, because in the last few weeks, Season 2 of Blake 7 has been released on Blu-ray. I did get that. I did sit down over the last couple of weeks and watched the entire set. I was very excited because I'd heard some very good feedback from the UK. And I've got to say, we have always said that as Doctor Who fans, we are the luckiest group of fans because of the quality of the Blu-ray releases. And prior to that, the DVD releases that we got. Blake 7 fans, we are even luckier because this set, like the first set, is just absolutely fantastic. All the episodes have been restored and cleaned up in a remarkably good way. From the moment the first shots of the opening credits start, you just go, wow, this is incredibly crystal clear and bright and sharp. And that progresses all the way through the episodes. The film work on that has also been very, very nicely done. I don't know if it's still Vidfire they're using or an updated process like that, but that looks really good. Particularly though the filming they did indoors, which always looked very weird on previous releases, that's been really well done. All the spaceship shots and the special effects shots have been redone with CGI, which when you consider 13 episodes of Blake 7 is the equivalent to a 26-episode season of Doctor Who, that is a remarkable feat, but it's all been done exceptionally lovingly and loyally. Although they have made the shots of the Liberator look even better because it's now CGI, they've got better shots of pursuit ships and shots of blobs on scanners and now shots of spaceships on scanners and all that sort of thing. They all look like what they were meant to look like. So they haven't gone and redesigned things. They haven't gone and changed things up and everything like that. It looks like it was meant to look. There's some really good detail there, like, for example, on Space Command, which is attacked by Blake in the episode Trial. When that's seen for several episodes after, you can see them repairing the damage that was done to that space station by Blake in the previous episodes. They've done stuff like that.
Interesting.
The love and the veracity of it all comes down to a particular spaceship in Star 1, the season finale, which famously Matt Irvine made from two halves of a hairdryer, because it was on screen for about half a second, literally about half a second. He's like, how much do I spend on this spaceship? But now that they can do it by CGI, they can actually show it landing, rather than just as in the broadcast version, they sort of do the look over the horizon, that spaceship's landing. Now they can actually cut to a shot of the spaceship landing, and it looks like a spaceship made from two halves of a hairdryer. It's very well done, but they've still been loyal to the design. So given all the controversy we've had about special effects in Doctor Who Blu-rays, particularly about the AI cleanup in the Season 13 box set, and I'm already starting to see some comments about the Season 21 box set, to have this done so well, so cleanly and so nicely is a big deal. I think it does show what fans of classic British sci-fi want. They want it to be clean, but they want it to be faithful. And we've been very, very lucky with Blake 7.
Oh, that's really good to hear. I may pick up these sets at some stage. I own Blake 7 on DVD, and I'm very happy with that. I'm just not as big a fan of Blake 7 to go out and buy the Blu-rays. But, it's close, Dave. I'm on the edge about doing it. I can see the value in doing it, put it that way.
Yeah, look, they do look really, really good. It is a nicer way to watch it. My only regret is that they've cut all the model shots. And I think that's a shame, because that big sort of 6-foot Liberator model that they did remains a fantastic model. And I think that it's a shame that they haven't got some of that mixed in with the CGI. I get that it might have been jarring and maybe they considered it and it wasn't. And of course you can still watch the old special effects by selecting that option on the Blu-ray. So it's not lost, but really, really good.
Very nice.
And Rob, you have got a short topic which you have told me exists, but not told me about. So I am always a little bit nervous. Are you about to announce your resignation or something?
No, nothing of the sort. Nothing of the sort, Dave, but it does relate to the show. And it's that I want to leave a note here that this is the end of our 10th year doing the podcast. And it's weird because the show's first episode was in 2016. So you think, 2016, well, 2026 is our 10th year. But because we started in January of 2016 was our first year, 2017 was year 2. So 2025 is actually our 10th year that we're finishing up here tonight. And for people who are interested in this sort of stuff, Dave, you joined us in episode 2 as a guest back in February of that year, then came on board full-time in episode 8 in August, once I finally figured out what the hell I wanted to do with this show. So you were on 6 of the first 12 flagship episodes for that year, and you've put up with my nonsense in, every episode where you haven't been on holidays ever since. And I do want to say, thank you so much for that.
Well, I would never have guessed that. If you'd said to me, how many years we've been doing this, would have gone, 7, maybe 8. But 10, wow. Oh, look, it's been fun. We're still doing it. I'm not going to be more indulgent than that. But yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it. Thank you.
Oh, I'm going to be more indulgent.
Okay. Well, I'll sit back and listen.
Yeah, because I want to say a few things. I want to say first up, when you appeared on that first episode, I thought, hey, here's a guy who knows his Doctor Who. He can speak well. He can hold an opinion here without needing to dismiss anyone else to big up his opinion. I thought, that's very rare online. It's getting rarer all the time. And I've actually enjoyed his company here. I think I can work with this. And so I reached out and, a few months later we started doing it together full time. And we have put out a show on the dot and not missed a monthly episode for this entire decade. And we've made a lot more content besides the monthly shows, of course. But, we've done that. Still no Patreon, all of that stuff. It's something I think we should be proud of. And it's funny, I don't even think of it in such grand terms most of the time. When colleagues find out I have a podcast, I sort of downplay it. And, you've got a podcast? I'm like, yeah, sure. But here at the end of 10 years, it. Let me say, I think we've done really well, Dave. I think we've done some cool stuff. We've got into the ears of a lot of real people out there in the world, by which I mean not just mates or other podcasters doing the mutual podcast thing. But from our mailbag, we know we've found an audience out there. We know you're out there listening. You're in all sorts of countries around the world, which just amaze us. We'd love someone to write in and say, yes, I am in a forest in Finland, or yes, I am in, Djibouti or something. I don't know. It's really cool. So, look, thank you again, Dave, for being a mate, for being a co-conspirator, and choosing to be on the show here with me for 10 years. I look back on this last decade with surprise, with affection, and with pride. And yeah, I'll shut up now. Yeah.
No, look, let me say all of that straight back at you. I wouldn't do this if it wasn't fun, and it has been fun. It's never been a chore. And I must admit, you mentioned the workplace thing. I did have an interesting moment a couple of weeks ago when we were sitting around Parliament House in Canberra, and one of the new members of the team sort of said, "Oh, what do you mean you've got a podcast?" "Oh, yeah, I've got a podcast." And somebody else said, "Yeah, I didn't really believe it either, but I went and looked it up and I listened, and suddenly, yeah, that's David." And the really weird thing is they call you Dave. What's that about? So that was very fun.
I must confess, on your first episode where you're a guest, and maybe even your first episode as a host, I do call you David on that. I'm like, "Oh, hello, David." And you're like, "Oh, hello, Rob." Or maybe, "Oh, hello, Robert." And it's all very formal.
Yes, no, I've always been Dave in fandom, but David to the family and in the workplace.
Right.
And I get DK a lot in my professional life as well, but no, always been Dave in fandom. That brings us very nicely onto our main topic for this month. We were talking about what to do for Christmas. We wanted something that wasn't too hard, that was a bit light, that was sort of in the festive mood. So we said, look, we haven't done anything from New Who for quite a while, other than the hot takes of the Gatwa era. So let's do something like that. Let's just each pick a fun episode to talk about. You've picked one, I've picked one. Yours is up first, Rob. Tell us what you picked and tell us why you picked it.
Sure. I picked Unicorn and the Wasp, and I've often referred to this episode on the show over the years as one I've always found particularly fun. But as far as I can remember, we've never really looked at it in any detail, so it seemed a no-brainer to me to sort of say, oh, hang on, Tennant and Tate in their Imperial phase, a funny script, an Agatha Christie pastiche that actually involves Agatha Christie, a cast that's got The Good Life's Felicity Kendall, Rogue One's Felicity Jones, and just to prove you don't need to be called Felicity to be in it, the one and only Henry Gordon Jago himself, Christopher Benjamin, is in it. That's nuts. So yeah, it was an easy choice for me here to pick this one.
Yes, no, absolutely. I can remember watching this at the time and having... I certainly didn't dislike it, but I didn't love it either. I think that I was probably in my Catherine Tate is annoying me phase.
Oh dear.
Which has continued for a while. And I was probably also at that I'm just getting a little bit sick of David Tennant point as well. I think that David Tennant is very good to dip into. I sometimes struggle with his Doctor on a long watch. So it's been very interesting and very fun to dip back into this. I will just pick up on the point you made there. The cast is absolutely amazing. Yes, Felicity Kendall, I know her from her superb performance as the Princess Vicky in Edward VII. And of course, yes, it has got Henry Gordon Jago, who I also know as the French ambassador from Yes, Prime Minister. It's also got the actor who was in my favourite episode of the UK's episode of The Office, the one where the leadership firm hires David Brent to come and give inspirational talks. And then he gives this very, very weird and bizarre David Brent inspirational talk. And he's one of those two recruiters. So it's full of, I know that face cast. It's really good.
Yeah, it really plays up to that ensemble feel that you get in Agatha Christie or Poirot or any of these types. Even Knives Out is an ensemble sort of show. It really plays up to that by having these faces in it, yeah.
I saw the last Knives Out at the cinema the other week. That is the best of the three. Absolutely fantastic. Just as an aside.
I watched it on Netflix, and I love the first one. But yeah, it's up there. It's better than the second one, that's for sure.
I think it's better than the first and the second. It's good. Check it out. Anyway, that was a distraction.
Anyway.
So, Rob, what are your memories coming in? Because I've said it didn't quite gel for me. How did it land for you?
Well, this is a story I've always had a soft spot for since I saw it. As I said, I love this country house setting. I love the era. I'm always banging on, as you know, Dave, about how the Fifth Doctor should have had more 1920s stories, like Black Orchid. And this is right in that wheelhouse, of course. And we have an historical figure and an actual real-life event that happened when she did really disappear for a period of time. All of that combines into the kind of pseudo-historical in an era I love, so I was predisposed to this from the start. You could make a list of checkboxes and be like, yep, this is a story Rob will love. And I really did. And I've been eager to name check it over the years because I think it's a bit of a forgotten story. And I don't think it's just because of Gareth Roberts writing it, and because of that, a section of the fandom has cancelled him in more recent years, and so they don't talk about it. I think it's bigger than that. I think for just some reason, this one just was never really talked about in big, like, oh, that's a great episode terms. Am I misremembering?
No, I think you're right. I think that there are a lot of big episodes and controversial episodes in season 4 of the new series, and this is not one of them. And if I can maybe move into my reaction to this one, I found this an absolute delight to go back and watch as a standalone, just put it on and have a lot of fun episode of Doctor Who. Particularly in the first half, I thought it was really good. Particularly in the first half, I was actually laughing out loud quite a lot. I was really amused by it. It's just tickled my fancy. It was really, really good. Does it go downhill a little bit in the second half? I think it does. I'll talk about why. But as fun as it is also, I'll be honest, totally insubstantial. Now, that is a perfectly fine thing for a piece of Doctor Who to be. Just enjoyable in the moment is all it needs to be sometimes. And it definitely is enjoyable in the moment. But yes, I think that lack of substance is why it is a bit sort of watch and forget. And maybe it doesn't get the attention or the love it should have got in fandom.
Okay, that's fair. For me, returning to it after so long, I was kind of in two minds. On one hand, I was delighted to be reunited with it, but on another hand, it was like, things have changed. Like when you have a really great friend and you're reunited after a period of time and you're so happy to see them and you have great memories of them, but at the same time, there's been a period of time that's gone by and you're different, and so you interact with them differently. And I found I interacted with this a bit differently too, not in a negative way, but certainly in a different way, and maybe not even in the ways you think, but we'll get into that.
Rob, you've intrigued me. Why don't you continue?
Well, I was surprised, Dave, at how cheap everything looked.
Yeah.
By which I mean, yes, they're at a real country house location, and the BBC always knocks that out of the park. Put that aside. But it was the actual video quality and the special effects. That's more along the lines of what I mean. I was like, oh man, I don't remember the series looking like this. But when we're so used to how the show looks now, I think. It started to look really good in Capaldi's era, I think, and then Jodie's era improved on that. And Ncudi's era certainly didn't go backwards. I mean, we used to say, oh, they've got all this Disney money, but it's not looking much better than Jodie's era. When you go back to whatever this was, like 2008, it's really starting to show its age.
Yeah, it did kind of surprise me just how old I realised it was. And yes, I also did have that moment of looking at some of the effects, particularly the Wasp, and just going, ooh, this didn't look dated when I watched it at the time.
Yeah.
And of course it didn't. But yes, we are now at that point where older New Who is starting to date. I've talked about in the past going back and watching the first Harry Potter movie a few years ago and just looking at some of the effects on that and going, ooh, that's really dated. And even when you watch the Eccleston era now, the way that it's directed and the way that it's shot does just scream this was made in this sort of around 2005 era. It looks like all television looked in that era. And the same with this one. Its age is showing. Now, we're Doctor Who fans. Like, we're very used to the age showing on things. And this is not, the CSO in the claws of Axos or anything like that. But you're right. It does look older. And I think because of that, I was focusing even more on the dialogue and the characters and just allow myself to be washed away by that aspect of it.
Two things. You mentioned Harry Potter, and I'll say a lot of people with this new Harry Potter TV show being made have got online and said, why on earth would you remake it? And sure, there are people who will say that about anything being remade, but there are people who are genuinely confused by it. And I think a lot of those people might not have watched Harry Potter in recent years, and they're just living on that, maybe a childhood memory of it, like, oh, it's just this perfect movie series that I really loved. But if they went back and watched it now, I think they'd have the experience you had, like, oh, this could actually be done so much better. And I think that's what that TV series is going to do. That's point number one.
Yes, I agree with all of that.
And point number two, there were actually moments I was watching this and thinking, wow, this is starting to seriously feel like classic Who to me. And my brain got racing on whether that's because it's just a more traditional Earth-based story, and Gareth Roberts obviously leans towards traditional classic Doctor Who, or whether it was just the passing of time in general, and maybe the look of the thing that I mentioned earlier, even the delivery of some of the lines and the way people were acting, maybe the kind of actors who are in it. Maybe it was just I was getting more weird and sentimental about it. I don't know, but I had this very bizarre feeling that this was like watching classic Doctor Who would have been for me 20 years ago,
It's really interesting that you mentioned that. Gareth Roberts, of course, got his start as a Doctor Who writer back in the days of the Virgin books and wrote 7 of the NAs and the MAs. And as an aside, on the 42 to Doomsday Christmas ep, their book club this episode is actually for Gareth Roberts' book, so we just had a long chat about his work in that sense. And it's worth remembering that what really put Roberts on the map wasn't so much his New Adventures work, but his Missing Adventures work, where he was really quite well acclaimed in the 1990s for how well he captured season 17 in 3 of his books, and indeed season 2 in the 4th of his Missing Adventures. He was sort of held up in the way that Paul Cornell was sort of the king of the New Adventures. Gareth Roberts was really held up as the king of the Missing Adventures because he was able to capture those fun areas of the show so well. And I think you definitely see in this script the influence of a fan who absolutely loves the classic era, but particularly the lighter and the sillier classic era. He's a huge fan of season 17. And I think that vibe permeates through this episode.
Yeah, because it was definitely a real sensation I was having. And look, it could be a combination of things like I've mentioned, but one of those things was that, yes, Roberts absolutely leans towards this traditional classic sort of Doctor Who feel. So I'm not surprised that looking at it now, it did feel like the classic era in a strange way.
And it does mean that it is one of those scripts that I think, as time goes on and on and on, will date even better because it doesn't rely so much on the effects and the big wow moments. It does just rely on a lot of fun dialogue. The other thing that it does rely on that maybe was a struggle for me is obviously the production team and the writer and a number of others are huge fans of Agatha Christie's work. which is a very reasonable thing to be a fan of. I'm not a fan of Christie's work, but I've never really dived into it in a big way. I've read a couple of the classics. I've seen a couple of TV versions of her work. I've seen the recent Poirot movies that are of mixed quality, shall we say. I'm not, deeply ingrained in the world of Agatha Christie, so it was very clear to me that there were a number of references that I got, but I reckon for everyone I got, it was obvious there were 2 or 3 that I was missing, which is always a little bit frustrating.
Yeah. Oh, of course. You want to be in on the in-jokes and so on. But I guess for people who are in on them, it's a delightful thing to watch something crafted by a fan of Christie.
No, absolutely. And I don't begrudge it at all. That's absolutely the way to do it. It just was that in between these earlier moments of going, this is really fun, and oh my god, look at the cast, and oh my god, they've turned up, and I'm having a good time, I was sort of going, I reckon that was an in-joke and I've missed it. So that was a bit of a shame. It's called The Unicorn and the Wasp, Rob.
Yes.
Let's talk about the unicorn.
Okay.
And her whole 1.5 scenes.
I think it's a bit more than that, Dave.
It's just, look, it's interesting that it's billed as The Unicorn and the Wasp, and it really is a lot more about the Wasp. I got in that unicorn plot, though, and I don't know whether it's just me because I've been reading so much material about old Doctor Who, but do you remember all the stuff they've said about Andrew Cartmell's planned season 27? And there'll be that aristocratic, safe-cracking thief. Did you get those sort of vibes from the unicorn?
To some degree, yeah. I mean, I get those vibes much more from Lady Christina D'Souza. Is that what they call? Is that her surname? D'Souza? Lady Christina D'Souza?
It sounds right. Let's roll with it.
Yeah, let's go with that. I got those vibes much more from that character in the Tennant era. But this isn't a million miles away from that. Spunky Felicity Jones has quite a bit of charisma, and when she drops the accent, all right, you got me, it's great, and the fact that she becomes Jyn Erso in Rogue One so many years later, it's just one of those great things, like where you could say, oh, look, there's Andrew Garfield before he was Andrew Garfield. Well, here's Flick Jones before she was Flick Jones, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's done very well, and indeed that whole, I've gathered it all together to explain who the murderer is scene was really, really good, with some really good and nice twists, which brings us on to the Wasp in the title. What are your thoughts on the Wasp, Rob?
We've already touched on my main points, which is the effect just looks not great these days. As a concept, though, I think it was suitably weird. Like a wasp is something you do see in the country, you just don't see them that big. I thought that was kind of an interesting thing to do. And it's got the alien twist, so it's not a completely Earth-based historical, which they need to do these days. I'm fine with it. Why? Where are you taking this conversation? Do you not like it?
No. I'd lead on the unicorn. I thought you should lead on the wasp. I see. I thought it was fine. I did think that the weaker parts of the episode were in that sort of last 10 to 12 minutes. I like that Agatha Christie was the one who really did resolve the plot, although I thought a little bit of the we've now got to get Agatha Christie where history says she needs to be was sort of a little bit rushed and sort of brushed over. I do agree the special effects look quite ordinary now, which is a shame, but also the acting as sort of the transition. I was watching that and going, oh, this isn't good. Oh, they're making him do that? Oh, poor chap. So, that drew me out a little bit. And I think just through necessity, as you start to get the denouement of the mystery and a couple of people have to die and you have to deal with the Wasp, you lose a bit more of that fun aspect of it, which was a shame because I was really enjoying laughing along with it. And now it was all a bit serious with some bad special effects. I'm like, oh, this is still good, but I was having more fun and it was just having fun.
Well, talking of directing, Graham Harper is in the director's chair for this.
Yeah, how weird's that?
Yeah, I mean, it's no case of Androzani, It's not pulling out every trick in the book and making you sit up in your chair and say, good Lord, Doctor Who never looks like this. Who's directed this? This is amazing. It's just very by the numbers. And look, I mean, the story is a pastiche. You just want it to feel like things that are a pastiche. So I think his direction on the whole gets it there, but you're right, some of the choices they make with some of the actors is interesting.
Yeah, look, it all works, and we're diving in very hard to make those comments, but no, it all works. I think it is worth noting that although New Who, particularly under Russell T Davies the first time, had a very big reputation as being this sort of LGBT-friendly show, it was very, very rare to actually see actual gay characters on the show. Even somebody like Captain Jack was a, omnisexual from the future when we don't have sexuality sort of get out of jail.
Oh, yes. He liked the ladies too.
Yeah. So it actually was very rare. So just to have two gay characters in this just being normal gay people, I thought was actually a very nice gesture and surprisingly rare for the new series.
I'd forgotten those scenes were in it early on. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting they went by in season 4 without, I don't remember, any controversy.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So look, overall, this was a fun one. I enjoyed it. More than anything, I just sat back and laughed and had fun.
Yeah, me too. As I say, I mention it so often on the show, it was good to actually talk about it properly instead of just saying, it's like the unicorn and the wasp, and then moving on to a different topic.
Excellent. Which brings us on to my pick for a fun Christmas episode, which was, of course, Time Heist.
Now, Dave, you asked me why I picked mine. Why did you pick yours?
So why I picked this is also very much ingrained in my memories of this episode. It's because of how fondly I remember this and the run that it's in. I was very excited when Peter Capaldi was cast as the Doctor, having, as the audience will no doubt know, not really gelled that well with Matt Smith's Doctor. As much as I love Matt Smith, the actor, I hadn't gelled with his Doctor, particularly towards the end or his era. And I was very excited when we had Peter Capaldi as a more classic-style older Doctor coming on. I then watched his first episode, which was basically a Matt Smith script with Peter Capaldi, and thought, oh, that's not very good. Then I watched Into the Dalek and thought, that was even worse. Am I going to hate this era too? Oh no. Mm-hmm. Then I started to watch the run of episodes straight after that, which included stuff like Robot of Sherwood, Listen, and I thought, these are really good. I'm really liking this guy now. And then Time Heist was the third in that run where I've just gone, yeah, this is fun. Capaldi's great. I love this Doctor. I am officially back. So it is an episode I remember as being fun. It is an episode I remember as being funny. But just it's an episode that I'm really fond of because it is that moment where after a separation from Doctor Who, I had, after a bit of a trial, committed, yes, I'm back.
In terms of memories for me, I hadn't rewatched this since it went out. And my memories of the episode were that I thought it was okay. It wasn't an episode like Listen, which I also haven't actually rewatched, but I have memories of thinking, oh, that was really good. Or on the flip side of the coin, something like Flatline, which I haven't rewatched, and I have memories of thinking, that was really boring, even though everyone else seemed to really like it. This one, in my memory, was like, oh yeah, it's inoffensive. It was a story that I watched. I didn't have super strong feelings either way going into my rewatch.
That was another reason why I picked it as well, because I think that Listen is often spoken about as a really well-regarded episode of Doctor Who. I think that Robot of Sherwood is often talked about as a both fun but memorable but controversial episode of Doctor Who in some ways, and because it's written by Gatiss, it always gets brought up in any Gatiss discussion. Whereas this one does seem to have sort of slipped between the cracks, so I thought it would be good to go back and watch it. When you did, Rob, what was your reaction?
It's interesting. My overriding thought was, I thought this was more fun. Did Dave think it was more fun too when he chose it? Like, it's nothing like my pick. It's possibly an example of the memory cheating. Yes, there are funny lines, but there's also some quite grim stuff, like two of the gang essentially choose suicide rather than having their minds sucked out by the teller. And overall, it's not the fun and jolly romp I thought it was. And I wondered if you had thought that too. And in saying that, yes, I know Moffat does his cheat thing if no one actually dies in this, but you know what I mean. This isn't Tennant and Tate hamming it up at a country house.
I had almost exactly that note.
No!
I did. I was watching it, and partly because a few nights before I'd watched The Unicorn and the Wasp, and that was a romp, and I thought, yeah, good, I've picked another romp, and this will be really good.
No, you haven't!
And I'm watching it and going, this isn't the romp I remember it being. I'm not saying it's not fun. It is fun. I'm not saying that it doesn't have some genuine laugh-out-loud funny moments. It does.
Yes.
But it is not RTD and Gareth Roberts type fun. It is Moffat humour, and it is Capaldi humour, and so it is darker and mixed in with darker tones as well. So as a contrast, serendipitously, that's worked out quite well. But it's interesting. All the funny moments I remembered were there, and they were what I had remembered. But the stuff that had seeped out of the memory was the darker stuff, and I'm going, this is not quite what I expected. Still good, but not what I expected. I will note, though, I'm going to put myself out there and say, I think that Peter Capaldi, of all the new Who Doctors, is the best at doing comedic lines. I think he's actually the best at comic timing and doing those funny lines. In the way, I think that William Hartnell was actually the best at doing the comic lines in classic Doctor Who. And I think both of them have got what Tom Baker used to refer to when he talked about Arthur Lowe as a comedian, particularly in Dad's Army, where you've got that utter sincerity and that utter incorruptibility being very, very funny, and that just works really, really well.
Yeah. Oh, look, agree with that. And I'm just blown away that you had the same note. But yeah, I think the memory has cheated here, Dave, for both of us.
Did you find it fun at all, or was it just grim?
Yes, like I say, there are some funny lines, but it's not... Is it because possibly heist movies are sometimes fun and rompy? And so we've thought, oh yeah, when Doctor Who did that, it was also fun and rompy. But it's actually not?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a part of it. I think that you're right. The heist genre is known for being rompy and often fun, as you say. And so it's perhaps not inexplicable that in our minds, the Doctor Who heist episode lived in a more rompy way than it actually was. I still think it's more fun than a lot of Peter Capaldi's work, and a lot more fun than a lot of Moffat's very grim work. But it is a grimmer style of fun. I also think, had I not just rewatched The Unicorn and the Wasp, this wouldn't have seemed quite as grim and less fun by comparison, maybe.
Yeah, jarring.
Yeah, which is really interesting. The plot was also a lot more involved than I'd remembered. I'd remembered it as being a very sort of light on, sort of, Ocean's 11, 12 style plot, where it's all sort of very jiggery-pokery and light, but it's actually quite involved, and in true Moffat style, very emotionally involved.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That ending is absolutely in that ballpark. And I know he's co-writing here, but it's certainly Moffat leaning into that timey-wimey box of tricks. And we need to get to that ending to see how everything was set up. And it is clever, but it's no Blink by any stretch of the imagination, which goes to show that even when you have Moffat playing to his strengths, the timey-wimey stuff, with a very traditional, very stern Doctor, all the trimmings that we like in Doctor Who, it can sometimes fall a bit short and not be an epic, because I'm going out here in this part of the review already and saying I don't think this is like an epic story or anything like it.
No, I broadly agree with what you're saying. It is certainly no Blink, but very few things are. That's like saying a classic episode isn't the City of Death. It's like, well, no, but what's going to be?
Fair.
I did find the ending clever. I did find the ending worked. I did remember from my first viewing that there was a time-based twist at the end, and if I was in any doubt, the thing's called Time Heist, so it's going to go there. But I hadn't quite remembered exactly what the nature of it was. I hadn't remembered about the clone at the end. I hadn't remembered all about what the Not a Naimon what was all about. So it did work for me. I think it was very clever. I agree with you. This isn't a classic in the same way that Unicorn and the Wasp isn't a classic, and that's again probably why it's probably faded from the memory a little bit compared to some of the stories around it, which are big and notable. Certainly bigger and more notable than this. But, like the Unicorn and the Wasp, I put this on, I watched it from start to end without looking at the time or looking at my watch, and I just had a really good time watching it. And once again, there is a place for Doctor Who episodes that you can just watch and go, that was fun. It maybe wasn't quite the light-hearted romp I'd expected, but it was still very enjoyable, and Peter Capaldi giving funny, dark human lines is just my thing.
Yeah. I have very few notes on it. I was surprised how quickly the Doctor takes to doing the heist. I know there's the recording of their voices at the start saying, they agree to these things and all of that, but voices can be faked. And in fact, the whole voice of the architect, you'll break into the Bank of Calabraxos. That is a faked voice itself. And yet the Doctor hears ostensibly his voice and he's like, okay, well, let's do this. It didn't feel quite right, but I guess if he was like, oh, yeah, nah, this seems a bit wrong, we'd have no story. I get that too.
And it's funny, if you go back, 11, 12 years or something, maybe that idea of you can fake a voice just wasn't quite as big in our zeitgeist as it was now.
Oh, it's a good point, actually.
I mean, we were talking about, AI fakes earlier, and I mean, we're now in the era where someone can, get a recording of your grandma or your grandson and, manipulate a recording to make them say, hey, Grandma, please send me $5,000.
Yeah.
We are in that era now, and nobody trusts anything, and maybe we just were a bit more trusting when we watched it.
Yeah, but like I say, at the end of the episode where we're seeing how the Doctor engineered all of this, we see him manipulating the voice until it sounds like the Bank of Calabraxos. We are shown that it is a faked voice, even if they weren't as common in an AI sense in real life.
Yeah, and I do wonder if maybe it missed just a little line of Clara saying to the Doctor, you've gone for this very easily. He's like, well, whether it's real or not, it'll be fun.
Yeah, that'd be a good line.
Yeah, so or maybe just the fact they've got me here and have wiped my memory and they've got the worms, etc., says that something legit's got to be going on, and I want to get to the end of it. I don't know. Look, you're not wrong. The deaths of the two co-heisters, I had forgotten that there was going to be a Moffat cheat. I should have remembered there's always a Moffat cheat, but I'd forgotten there was, and so I was actually blown away, particularly by the second one of just going, oh, that's nasty. Ooh.
I think it's the way he screams, like, it's been a horrible death.
Yeah.
But almost as immediately as that happened, I thought, oh, crap, I think he brings him back because that's his shtick. Yeah. And you should never think that about an author. You should always be surprised. But I was thinking that as soon as the second guy died, the second one.
It is absolutely in my view, big failing of Moffat when we look back at his work as a totality, that you can't trust death in a drama. I think that's a shame.
Yeah. You've mentioned the Teller's race, the sort of not Naimon. I'll skip to the end as well, because I just want to ask Dave, do you think the Teller's race are nudists? Because he's wearing clothes in the bank. He's wearing like that orange jumpsuit. But when he reunites with the other one, they walk off naked. And I thought, is this perhaps an Adam and Eve thing? If they're the last of their kind, are they going to that planet like it's a Garden of Eden? And they're the only two, so they're just going to be nude? Sort of Adam and Eve style? Is that the intent, or am I just reading too much into that final scene?
That hadn't occurred to me, but now you say that makes perfect sense to me.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I'll also sort of talk about the end and just say that as baffled as I was at a couple of points through this, and as shocked as I was by a couple of the deaths, I did think that, again, in true Moffat style, he did tie it all up very nicely. The twists worked, the exposition was done with a light touch, so I thought it all came together very well, which meant that at the end I'd had a good time watching it.
Yeah, same. And look, I want to give a shout out to Keely Hawes. Keely Hawes has been in a number of British productions over the years that I've really enjoyed, Spooks being a big one. So I was delighted that she got to play sort of the double role as the owner of the bank, and also like the assistant, the clone.
Yeah, she was very good.
And how horrifying that the clone was going to get incinerated, which I don't think is retconned or reversed in the storyline.
No, I was having Wei Yun clone vibes on that one.
Right, okay.
So, Rob, that's really where I am for Time Heist. Was it as laugh-out-loud, light and rompy as the Unicorn and the Wasp? No, it wasn't.
No.
Even though it lived in my memory as being such.
Yeah.
But was it a really good, fun, enjoyable, just everyday piece of Doctor Who? Absolutely, yes, it was for me, and I'm glad I watched both of them.
Yeah, my wife stayed on the lounge and watched Time Heist when I had it on, and she sort of gave up on Doctor Who a while back, so for her to sit down and watch it was really something. I mean, she loves Peter Capaldi, so that was half the battle won, but she did actually stick around and watch the whole thing.
Excellent. Well, they're two fun episodes. As always, let us know what you thought, which is my way of segueing us into our listener feedback. Like last month, we have a lot of good feedback. If we haven't got everybody's in there, we're very sorry, but we've done our best. I'm going to kick us off with a comment on Rob, your I Was a Teenage Time Lord video re-release, which came out on the 62nd anniversary. It's from Michael Clunan via YouTube. I remember watching this quiz, although it was better for those in the cities who got to see all of Remembrance of the Daleks. Here in country Victoria, we missed episodes 1 and 2 because the ABC showed the cricket instead.
Wow.
They fixed this the following year by juggling the broadcasts, which resulted in us getting Silver Nemesis episode 2 twice when the cricket was interrupted by rain. Let me also just mention the long-forgotten story, Doctor Who and the Daleks looks like Spanish conquistadors.
Oh, God, yes. That was an afternoon show joke. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool, Michael. And yes, that takes my memory back to when, if you were watching in commutable area of where the cricket match was held, they didn't broadcast it because they thought it would flatten ticket sales. So if you're in Melbourne, you didn't get to watch the Melbourne Test live.
Yeah, crazy. And I remember they used to do it a lot for one-day matches as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, crazy stuff.
Yeah. Also on the little doco that I re-released for the anniversary, APM77 says on YouTube, memories. Here are some of mine. I'm a couple of years younger than you. I was born in 1977. 5:30 definitely felt too early for Doctor Who. I had a sentimental attachment to Doctor Who starting immediately after a news bulletin. Was that 6:30? I've always assumed it was 6 p.m. Something about the news bulletin closing theme set the stage for the Doctor Who theme to begin, adding to the anticipation and the atmosphere. Did anyone else find that? And I might just stop there, Dave. I'm wondering if this person watched the news on a different channel and then flicked over to Doctor Who, so maybe saw the ending of a news and then watched Doctor Who.
I reckon that they always did the 6 p.m. news headlines for about a minute to then say, and the full news bulletin will be on at 7 p.m. So maybe that's why he's got the theme in his mind, because that I certainly know exactly what he's talking about. That and then into Doctor Who. So I think that was the headlines foreshadowing the 7 p.m. news.
I think you might be right. I was also a member of the fan club, and I'd forgotten that it was Australasian. I actually ran my own Doctor Who fan club for the region of rural South Australia, where I lived, and had single-digit membership, including my English teacher. All quite embarrassing in retrospect, as I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I visited Sydney for the original 1989 Whovention, dressed as Davros, my costume having been assembled from garbage bag, licorice all sorts for buttons, and a modified Frankenstein mask. I don't suppose you remember me. Well, no, I don't, because I didn't go to Whovention in 89. Otherwise, maybe I would.
No, me either. I was in Melbourne.
Yes. I feel like I sort of remember the afternoon show quiz, but not really. I certainly have no memory of the unconventional buzzers or there being so many contestants. Was there a question about Tom Baker's lapels? Because that's all I've got. I remember many fans had a negative attitude towards James Valentine at this time, but I never understood why. From evasive replies, I've gathered that his remarks about a specific episode had been taken as his judgment of the entire series or something. I could easily segue into a list of generic Doctor Who memories like what my first story was, how I joined the fan club, etc., but that would be too removed from your video, so I'll stop here.
First of all, thank you very much for that comment. That's really fun. I think that it was quite obvious that James Valentine didn't really want to be hosting a children's magazine show.
Yeah.
And occasionally it showed, and particularly wasn't keen on dealing with Doctor Who fans, dare I say, obsessiveness. The very strong memory I have of that was they occasionally would have a competition on the afternoon show about, one of the certain shows, and one of them was, we've got some Doctor Who stuff to give away, and so we're asking you to work out what the TARDIS should be disguised as next. Say it wasn't broken into a police box, what should the TARDIS be disguised as next? And when they were doing the finals, James Valentine came in and said, look, I've just got to say to all the people who wrote in, yes, I know that the Chameleon Circuit is stuck as a police box. I know that's how it works in the show. It's just meant to be a fun concept to have a competition. So can we all just kind of, and you can see he was quite frustrated because he obviously not had just one or two, but many contacts going, you can't change the TARDIS, it's the Chameleon Circuit. And he's like, no.
He just wanted to say, for sake, guys.
Yeah.
Get with it.
Yeah, so look, I think that there was a bit of antagonism on both sides. But look, fun memories of that. The next is a quick one from Peter Bulkley via YouTube. I remember it well. It was the first time I could put faces to a few of the names from Data Extract that would come in the post. Data Extract, of course, being the fanzine of the Sydney Doctor Who Club.
Yes, well, the Australasian Doctor Who Club, thank you very much,
The
Dave.
Sydney Doctor Who Club, Rob.
We'll agree to disagree, but I do say it didn't involve New Zealand, so it shouldn't have been Australasian. Simon from the Explosive Action YouTube channel, and do check out Explosive Action if you like heavy metal and genre films on physical media and all that stuff. Simon does all that sort of stuff. He's got about 8,000 followers. He's doing very well. Simon says, great story. I'd seen this footage on YouTube but didn't know it was you on the quiz. I don't remember seeing the quiz when it aired, but like you, in 1988, I lived and breathed the afternoon show. All the shows you listed at the start, plus the goodies, was my childhood history. And you were right, Doctor Who was not cool then. I got made fun of in primary school for being a fan. McCoy was my doctor, because that is what was airing at the time. I have fond memories of being scared watching Paradise Towers, and my mum bought me a Dapol McCoy figure, which I still have to this day.
That's very cool, and I could basically put my name to every comment you've made there myself.
Yeah, it's a real generational Aussie thing. Yeah.
It absolutely is. Our next set of comments comes on our Ask Mr. Producer special episode with Dylan Rees, which we've had a lot of very good feedback on. I think because it was both something different, where we interviewed Dylan about how modern television and therefore modern Doctor Who is actually made, which is something I know as someone who knows a lot about how classic Doctor Who was made. I realised I just didn't know a lot about. But it's also very interesting to get somebody who is actually a genuine subject matter expert in a topic and just let them talk. I'm reminded of when 42 to Doomsday a few years ago for the first time got Aaron from Aaron's Collectibles, a local dealer in Melbourne, to talk about the Doctor Who merchandise world from the point of view of somebody who actually has his money, invested in this world of collectibles. And again, a very broad positive feedback from people going, this is very different, but it's not just two fans giving their views, it's an expert. So thank you, Dylan, for coming and doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone out there who hasn't tuned into this episode, you might get a sense from these comments we're going to read that it might actually be worth your time. You might be looking and thinking, it's about TV production. Am I interested in that? I don't know. Give it a go. Listen to these comments.
Absolutely. The first is via Facebook from Ian McCardle. A brilliant, informative chat and lots to think about. Thanks for asking the questions, Dave. Thank you, Ian. It was my pleasure.
Nick Pickering via Facebook says, absolutely fascinating episode. You came up with questions that I wouldn't have thought to ask, but were very revealing. What an insight into how modern TV is made. Great guest too. Very grateful for him taking out the time to do this. I'd love to see you and Rob doing some of the interviews on the Blu-ray box sets. No disrespect to Matthew Sweet, who is also brilliant.
Well, thank you. Unlikely to happen, but thank you.
Yeah, they don't know we exist down here.
Also via Facebook from Frankie Norton. I really enjoyed it, guys. Another great episode of the podcast. I found it absolutely fascinating and very informative. Dylan is a great guest, and as others have said, very good of him to take some time out to record this with Dave. Thumbs up.
Nice. Stephen Moffat via Substack says, this episode is just fizzing with ideas, facts, and themes that deserve further listens. Could listen to Rees all day long too. The first-hand experience is awesome. Great questions and topics, Dave. I would absolutely buy the long-form book version of this. Thanks.
From David Gillespie Pratt of On X. If you're a Doctor Who fan and interested in how TV production works in this day and age, I highly recommend listening to this. A nice insight into the industry.
Primary Industries Librarian on X says, just finished listening to this after it dropped, and it was definitely a fascinating insight into how modern television is made. Thanks for your insider insights and knowledge, Dylan. Perhaps you could take over running Doctor Who one day.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That'd be very cool.
Guy Lambert says, loved it. Dylan works in the expensive telly, whereas I work in the low budget, buy the prop from Amazon and return it the next day telly. Laughing face, great stuff. Thank you, Guy, who's always been very supportive of us.
Yeah, he has. And Michael Sunderland on X says, excellent podcast, really well structured, Dave, allowing conversation to flow and giving Dylan a platform to sparkle. I think you should do more like this if the opportunity presents.
No, thank you, Michael. It's not something we're going to suddenly dive into, but if the opportunity comes up now and then, we're very happy to do it. Thank you all for the feedback on that episode. If you did enjoy listening to Dylan, please go check out Too Hot for TV. It's a very fun podcast, and there is an episode with me as a guest, one with you as a guest, and a recent one with both of us as a guest.
Yes, he covers all the bases.
And finally, we have some feedback on our Father Time episode that we put out back in April from Howermouse. Just finished Father Time and catching up. On the whole, a great read. Parkin gets the characterization right, which is essential for a Who book, really. Struck me that the Earth Arc is the type of concept the TV series could use right now to rediscover the Doctor and all the familiar elements slowly over a whole season or two.
That's an interesting idea. And when he says whole season or two, my instant reaction is like, 2 seasons? Oh, God. But then I realise seasons are so short now, maybe you would want 2 seasons of it.
Yeah, no, it could be a very interesting idea. As that arc did in the books, you've got very different eras, because it goes over, about 120, 150 years, something like that?
Yeah, late 1800s through to, what was the modern era for the books, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
That brings us to what have we been watching. I'll kick us off by saying, like a lot of fans of genre television, I watched Volume 1 of Stranger Things Season 5. Now, I did come late to Stranger Things. It was basically after everyone was raving about Season 4. I thought,
yeah,
I really do need to get involved with this and actually get on board, and this is a good time. So I watched all of the first 4 seasons at that time over 5 weeks. One a week for 1, 2, 3, and then it took me a fortnight to get through Season 4. I walked into Season 5 very excited for it because I really did enjoy Stranger Things, particularly Season 4 and Season 1. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good television. I thought that the arc payoffs in Season 4, as I said at the time, were the most worthy arc payoffs since Babylon 5, which is very high praise from me. The start of the season was a slow burn, maybe a little bit too slow a burn. There are a couple of things I could pick faults with. I did say to a couple of friends, if I was coming into this cold, I might think these kids were real pains in the ass. But as it built up in a really big way. And look, we say that modern television doesn't do cliffhangers, but oh my God, the cliffhanger at the end of Volume 1, which was at the end of Episode 4, was absolutely amazing. Very much enjoying this and looking forward to seeing the series finale, or the last few episodes, over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in.
Yeah,
I don't
please.
normally do this, but because I've been watching it too, it's worth saying to the listeners that between us recording tonight and this episode dropping, we'll have seen a few more episodes, and then there's a movie-length one coming on New Year's Eve. So by the time you hear this, we will have actually seen a lot more of the show, but we just can't comment because we haven't seen it yet. But yeah, it is going to wrap up in a good way, I think, and I think doing a wrap-up sort of show on alternate galaxies might be viable for us next year, Dave. What do you think?
Yeah, we'll sort of give it a week or so to allow people to watch it, because it is a show where spoilers are very, very problematic.
Oh yeah. Give it a month more.
Yeah, but I think we will both take a moment sometime in January to do an alternate galaxies on Stranger Things, because it's certainly, I think, worthy of that. I have also been rewatching some of The Crown. I was curious to go back and watch some of the early episodes and ended up watching the first 3 seasons, or more or less the first 3 seasons. I do think those first 2 seasons are really very, very good. It is a shame, though, that having seen the later seasons, how much they take liberties with histories and timelines and characters in those ones. I do now watch the first 2 seasons and go, I wonder how many liberties they're taking with these ones that I haven't quite noticed because I'm not quite as familiar. So that is a shame. I then got into Season 3 and I did struggle more with that. I think that whereas the first 2 seasons have a lot of ideas that they weave through a lot of episodes, Season 3 was very much like just one idea for 55 minutes. And if that idea didn't really last the length or wasn't that interesting, some of those felt very flat. So I didn't sort of keep going with Season 4, but I enjoyed the first couple.
Is 3 the one that starts with the landslide in the Welsh village? Am I remembering that right?
It doesn't start with it, but that is in there, yes.
That was the season where I gave up a few episodes in.
Yeah, it's not nearly as good as the first two. As much as I do enjoy Josh O'Connor.
Yeah, yeah.
And yourself, Rob?
Well, Dave, based on your comments last month, I watched Death by Lightning, and I really enjoyed it. And
I'm glad.
Yeah, I thought, gosh, Matthew McFadden has come a long way. I know a lot of people out there will say, oh, it's Mr. Darcy from, there was some Pride and Prejudice remake about 20 years ago. But to me, he'll always be this dashing young MI5 guy in Spooks. That's the second time I mentioned Spooks in this episode, which is about 1,000,000 miles away from playing Charles Gitto in Death by Lightning, so he's certainly come a long way. Deep Space Nine, I'm now into the final season, I'm into the home stretch, and I think that's another series we could do a nice alternate galaxies on now that I've actually seen it. And finally, Fallout is back on. It's screening weekly, and I just love Fallout. I mean, I've played the video games for decades. I was playing the video games before there were video games. There was a spiritual successor, a spiritual forebear, I should say, to Fallout, which I also played, called Wasteland back in the 80s. I just love this sort of genre, and they're just getting the TV show so right. It's just a pleasure to watch. The people who are making it, they've picked the right people. It's just great. I hope more people out there are watching Fallout.
No, look, I haven't seen any of that. Not really my thing, but I'm glad you're enjoying it. And yes, look, when you finished your watch of Deep Space Nine, look, Rob, I could talk about Deep Space Nine.
I'm sure you could.
With no excuse whatsoever. So definitely up for that. So yes, sometime in the new year, we will do an alternate galaxies on both Deep Space Nine and Stranger Things.
Nice.
But we are also going to do in the new year our January episode, which is going to be on, Rob.
Yeah, we've decided to do an Ask Us Anything. Because it's been a while since we've done one of those, there's probably more questions people want to ask. Maybe non-Doctor Who questions this time. They've been fairly big on the Doctor Who questions, but why don't we talk Blake 7 or Deep Space Nine or genre TV or whatever you like?
The history of South America.
Yes! Ask me about my guitar playing. Ask Dave about his piano playing. Who knows? We're going to do an Ask Us Anything anyway.
Yes, they're always light. They're always fun because January is... For those outside of Australia, I don't think you can quite appreciate how much this entire country stops between Christmas Eve and Australia Day on the 26th of January. The entire country stops. And we don't stop, but we do go back a couple of gears. So a nice, hopefully fun Ask Us Anything will be really, really good to do. So please have a think now. What are those questions you want to ask us? Ask us as many as you like. If we get too many, we will obviously have to prune them, but send them in through the usual way, email, social media, Facebook, all the rest of it, and we will do our best to answer them. Do check us out on the podcast we've guested on. Do leave us reviews. Do go and check out Spacefall. We are now well and truly rolling out episodes every about 3 weeks at the moment, so there are lots of new episodes of Spacefall, the Blake 7 podcast, out there with myself and Richard. But until then, happy Christmas, happy Hanukkah, happy New Year, all those things. Have a good summer, winter, wherever you are. Thank you for listening to us in 2025.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Happy New Year to you too, Dave. And we'll see you all in 2026. My God.
My God. But until 2026, I've been Dave, or David.
I've been Rob, or Robert. Yeah.
And we'll speak in the new year.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
This one's for you, dear listener. Every moment you've tuned in, as we roll on to 2026. Plenty of ideas already in the mix. Wherever you are, whatever you've missed, we're right here, hit play. You're always on our guest list.